I'm not sure about you, but I'm someone who really likes to explore all different kinds of art making. I like to do pencil drawing, watercolor painting, pop art, lino cuts, just really embrace all of the creativity that is out there. And I really enjoy this way of making art. It feels very natural to me to not to niche down, not to have to choose one art style only. But I know that that is definitely a thing that a lot of artists do, is that they like to choose one art style, or they do find an art style that suits them and they keep doing that. And that's great. That's awesome. But me personally, I really like to explore lots and lots of different ways of making art. So in this video today, I'm going to show you 10 different styles of creating art. I think this exercise is a great way to just test out some different styles, find something that maybe you enjoy one style more than another, maybe you enjoy doing all the styles, and these are art styles that you can keep bringing up. This is also a great way to fill a sketchbook page or get into the creative mode when starting another art project. Some of these art styles are inspired by art mediums like pencils or markers or paints and the different ways that you can use these art mediums. And some of these art styles are inspired by art from the past, famous artists, periods of art. I'm going to take you through each of the art styles individually. So the first thing to do is to get a big piece of paper and create a very basic drawing. It can really be a drawing of anything that you're interested in. I did a sort of still life drawing, very basic, using markers to outline my lines. Then what you want to do is take a ruler and pencil and divide up your artwork into 10 different spaces. Now these spaces can be done very sporadically, like I'm doing, where every block is going to be a different shape and a different size, or you can take a ruler and divide the page very horizontally and vertically into 10 even spaces. That would work as well for this. Kind of like this grid on the screen, but only 10 blocks, not as many as this. For the first art style, you're going to choose one block and find with markers, or you can use paint as well for this, but I'm going to be using markers. You're going to take a blue marker, a yellow marker, and a red marker. Now these are your basic primary colors. They are the foundation of all other colors. So I thought it'd be interesting to create an artwork using just these colors. Now this art style is inspired by an artist like Pete Modrian, who created art using only red, yellow, and blue, just breaking down the artwork to the very, very basic colors. It creates a really interesting effect, and it's almost like using a limited color palette when creating an artwork. So you do have to be quite creative with where you are placing the different colors, which is an interesting art challenge to kind of give yourself when you're creating. It helps you think outside of the box. Like here, I needed to make sure that I was placing the blue in different areas of the space so that I could then use the yellow and red to break up the blue, to not have too much blue in close proximity. I also think it's interesting to see as you create this artwork how adding the color just to this one section and then having the black and white in the background, just kind of the effect that color can create on an artwork. I personally really love color, and I just think it's so vibrant, and looking at this red, blue and yellow design against the black and white, it just really, really makes it stand out. So yeah, I just thought that was really interesting. So this is how it looks when it's finished, and that is the first art style. For the second art style, choose any colors you like. I would suggest doing this art style in markers, as the way that it has to be applied sort of works best with markers. You'll see what I mean later on. So what you want to do is take some lighter colors. So I've got a light blue here, and I'm going to color my background using the light blue, and I will do that with all of the light colors. And then later on, I'm going to take some darker colors. So for example, I have a darker blue, I have a darker purple, and I have a darker pink. With the darker colors, you create a spiral shape that is repeated, and you keep going with the spiral shape continuously over your lighter color. It creates a really interesting effect. I kind of call this style like spiral style. It's just sort of like a little bit of a doodling type of art style, but also a creative way of using colors and applying colors to an artwork. The third art style goes back to the very basics. It is the line art style. So you can use any colors you'd like for this. I would suggest using some markers or pencils could work as well for this, or even using just a fine liner pen. So what you want to do is kind of follow the lines of your artwork with a very repeated line pattern, and just keep doing that until all of the areas of your artwork are filled up. This art style is very relaxing to do because of the repeated nature of the lines. So I would definitely recommend this art style when you're feeling a little bit stressed about something. This is quite a calming art style to do for those moments, just relaxing the mind and focusing on just creating some beautiful art. For art style number 4, you want to get out some watercolors. You can also use paint for this, but I think watercolors works quite nicely because you want to create a very light background on your artwork. And then, as you'll see later, we're going to take a very small brush and do some brush work on top of the painting. This art style is very much inspired by artists like Van Gogh and also the Impressionists. I'm just using a lot of very short and quick brush strokes, lifting your brush up between each brush movement. It creates a really interesting look, and it creates a very beautiful flow to the artwork as well. Art style number 5 is creating an artwork using monochromatic colors. So that is choosing one set of colors to stay within. So I'm going to be choosing green as my color. So I'm going to mix a light green, a dark green. I'm going to find as many varieties of green as I can to add to this section of the artwork. And you can obviously do this with any kind of colors. You could choose to do blues and just stick with all different shades of blue. You could use oranges and stick within that shades. This would be great using watercolors like I'm using here. You could also do this with paint. You could also do this art style with markers or pencils as well. When doing this art style, it's quite important to focus on where the shadows and light are in your artwork, and that will kind of help you figure out where to use the different shades of your color. So for example, I made my plants very light because there's a lot of light hitting them, and then I used more of my darker greens in the background where my shadow areas would be. Art style number 6 is very much inspired by the artist Antoni Gaudi. It is the mosaic style. So he created artworks that were obviously made with real mosaic tiles on buildings, but I wanted to create this in a kind of 2D sense and doing it using drawing techniques. So what you want to do is choose a bunch of different art materials. This can be done with any art materials, but I'm specifically going to be using markers as well as some Posca markers. Want to lay down a base color to start out with. Next up, take a fine liner and divide up your artwork into different blocks. These blocks can be the same size or they can be different sizes. I'm going to be breaking mine up into sort of similar type of sizes, almost like a grid. You can also draw different designs on each tile if you have enough space. I drew some little circles on some of my tiles, and then I'm taking my markers and coloring lots of those different colors all over the place. So sort of spreading the colors out very randomly, and as you'll see in the end, it sort of all comes together and creates a really interesting mosaic type of look. Art style number 7 makes use of pencils, and the main idea of this art style is just to work on shading with pencils, so creating areas that are darker and areas that are lighter. It's kind of elevating the just regular pencil shading and sort of practicing creating depth using pencils. Art style number 9 originates from the idea of pointillism as well as pop art, the Ben-Day dots. So this art style is basically just a art style created using lots and lots of different dots to build up the color of the artwork. So I'm using markers for this because the markers are very, very easy to create the dots with. You can lift them quite quickly. So I colored with a very light color as my base, and then I'm taking a darker color and creating all the little dots to fill in the area. This is also quite a relaxing art style to do. It does take a very, very long time. If any of you have ever tried pointillism, you'll know that there's really a lot of time that has to be dedicated to it, but the effect of it is really nice at the end. So I would suggest giving this art style a try. Heading into art style number 9, this style is inspired by pop art. So the idea is to take very, very bold lines. So you want to get a black permanent marker and make sure your lines are as bold as they can be. So I went over all of mine and just really thickened the lines as much as possible. For this art style, I chose to use very bright colors. So I'm coloring all of those using markers, and then I'm taking my permanent marker and creating patterns on top of the colors. So these patterns can be any type of patterns. They can be repeated lines, they can be dots, they can be stars, they can be doodles, any kind of patterns that you would like. Finally, for art style number 10, this style is very much inspired by typography. So it is creating the color and details of an artwork using text as your foundation. So what I'm doing is I'm taking markers, filling in a base color, and then on top of that, I will be adding letters to it. You can also do this using actually like writing out the lyrics of a poem or the lyrics of a song, or just writing out different words that are meaningful to you. And literally the entire picture needs to be created using this style of text. So it is a very interesting and different way to create art, and I definitely recommend giving it a try. And that is all of the art styles. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll give some of these art styles a try. It's a really fun way to experiment with different ways of making art. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I'd love to have you here for more exciting art videos. There's lots that are already on my channel, and I'm really excited to share some more with you soon.